Every now and then, a streamer puts on a video by another content creator during the stream, then leaves their seat empty to go to the bathroom, and finally returns an hour later to the video having been played in full to the audience. When that happens, people on the internet shout at each other for a couple of days about the ethics of reaction content. These discussions can range from quite intelligent to, well, whatever this is. As thinking about ethics is part of my job, I always get curious when people on the internet get into heated arguments about ethical issues. And in the case of reaction content, we can see that people make reference to a lot of ethical theories without necessarily being aware of that. So in this episode I want to take a closer look at the ethics of reaction content. What people say about it, what theories they presuppose, and whether their arguments are any good. Let's dive in. As good philosophers, we should start with conceptual pedantry, conceptual clarifications. Many disagreements simply arise because people yell at each other about different topics. First, let us start by clarifying the notion of reaction content. Dark Viper, who kickstarted much of the recent discussion on reaction content with his take on the topic that spans a 14-page essay.
Wait, 14? It was 14-page document against React Andy?
14-page Google document.
14-page script.
14-page document.
14 pages? It's 14 pages!
Suggests to distinguish reaction and response videos. Response videos take the video of another creator as a target, but only use bits and pieces of the original video in order to clarify the point that the video is trying to make. If you wanted to make a response video, you would have to watch the video you want to respond to first. A response video, by definition, cannot be made on the spot, as some streamers do when they make reaction content. Reaction videos, in contrast, are videos where the reactor watches the video for the first time, oftentimes during a stream, and try to add insightful, funny, or otherwise transformative commentary. And no, there's no point in discussing the ethics of streamers who put on a video of another creator and then leave the room. Same for the type of reaction content where you just smile, giggle, and say, "Wow," a couple of times. That's not even reaction content, so we won't get an interesting discussion from that. What we want to look at are cases where people comment, live or for the first time, on other people's original videos. There is also a difference between using the React content live on the one hand, and then re-uploading it to the Reactor's YouTube channel on the other hand.
It's rough.
Well, the answer is really simple. The answer is
reach out and ask.
Reach out and ask.
Yeah.
Consent is sometimes seen as the holy grail in ethics. Without it, things are often ethically muddy, and with it, almost anything goes. So you might think that the most straightforward way to make ethical reaction content is simply to ask the content creator beforehand if you may react to their video. But let's clarify the argument. Normally, taking or using someone's content, to which they arguably have some form of rights to, is wrong. You're using something that is not yours in order to gain a benefit, and without further clarification that is a wrong thing to do, let us assume. But if the creator consents, so the argument goes, you're good to go. Issue completely solved. Well, that was easy. But it's of course a bit more complicated than that, though Linus and others are right in saying that consent is already a huge step. What could be missing? Well, in other debates in moral philosophy, some people argue that there are limits to what one can consent to, such as selling your organs or freely giving yourself into slavery. But reaction content is of course nowhere near as controversial as these things, so I doubt that there is much concern regarding consent here. If you agree with others using your content, there is no moral wrong done towards you in that regard. But even if there is no wrong towards you, there might be other people impacted by that decision. This in turn can impact the moral evaluation of the action that has been consented to. Dark Viper hints at such a problem when he discusses, in a slightly different context, the impact that reaction content has on the whole platform, both with live reaction content and the uploading of it to YouTube. The argument is that reaction content, by its very nature, takes impressions away from original content creators. When a streamer reacts to another YouTube video to prolong their stream, they do not themselves create original content, and people who might have gone to consume original content after the stream themselves instead consume it via the streamer. And if then, in addition, the streamer uploads their reaction to YouTube, this reaction content also competes with original content by other creators. In sum, we can expect that reaction content takes away impressions from the whole community of original content creators. This, Dark Viper implies, is bad. And if it is bad enough, it might make reaction content morally problematic, even if both the reactor and the original creator consent to it. But why is it bad exactly? The argument as I reconstructed it presupposes that there is something inherently more valuable to giving impressions to original content creators, rather than reaction content. Logically speaking, the reaction content machinery of course presupposes a minimal amount of original content to react to. But apart from that, we need an independent argument for the claim that, all things being equal, it is morally better if impressions go to original content rather than reaction content. Maybe I missed it, but I couldn't find an explicit argument for this claim in the discussion on reaction content. So, is it plausible? I do share it myself, but I'm not so sure that I can make a clear-cut argument for it. I personally get a lot of enjoyment from watching very different types of original content, which I rarely get from reaction content. I like the creativity, the insights I get about fascinating and sometimes weird niches of the world, such as speedrunning or the nature of black holes, which I wish we could have as much of as possible. But I can also imagine that there are viewers who genuinely enjoy it more if they watch original content alongside their favorite streamer or YouTuber who adds commentary on the spot. Though I do not share it, it is hard to see any principled mistake that they make in valuing such content. So the mere claim that reaction content takes impressions away from original content creators and gives them to reactors doesn't provide a good argument against reaction content, unless we also have a positive argument as to why original content creators ought to get the views instead. This leads us to the next argument that is typically brought up. Reactors are stealing views from the creators that they react to.
It is impossible to know how the video would have performed and how it went down in its natural curve over time, right? Whether I watched it
That's
or
an
not.
assumption. You have no proof. I have proof.
So you use...
I have analytics.
So one data set, right?
You have no data set. At least I have a data set.
Another problem we can get with reaction content is that impressions, views, and ultimately money go to the wrong people. Reactors get a lot of money from doing reacts, and only a little bit, if anything at all, trickles down to the original content creators. This is wrong, so the argument goes, because the original content creators deserve to get the impressions, views, and money that instead go to the reactor. There are two important assumptions in this argument. The first is empirical. It concerns the effects that reaction content has on the original content. There has been some data shared by people who have been reacted to that speaks to how much being reacted to has benefited them. Unfortunately, I don't know of any systematic data on that, but the few instances seem to suggest that the original content that is reacted to gets at best a small bump in views and attention that quickly diminishes. Of course, sometimes whole careers can be made simply thanks to a big reactor shining some light on a small original content creator. But again, I know of no data how much that really happens. The second premise in this argument is that original content creators deserve the views instead of the reactors. This might seem straightforward, but I am not sure of any clear-cut argument in favor of it. Many people, me included, probably share the intuition that people deserve to be rewarded for their work, especially when it is creative, funny, and brings entertainment to other people. But even if we grant this intuition, it is hard to say how much people actually deserve for their content. Did they get what they deserve when they reach 1,000 views? 10,000 views? A million? I wouldn't know how to answer that. So even if I have a vague notion that it is valuable when people are rewarded for their hard work, it is not easy to say why that is so and what exactly they would deserve. The fact that we don't know how much a good piece of content deserves, of course doesn't mean that they do not deserve to be recognized at all. But it makes it hard to convincingly claim that reactors are stealing from them if we have no idea how many views they would have deserved without the reaction. But maybe the problem isn't that original content creators get less than they deserve, but rather that reactors get what they don't deserve. If I had 1 million views that I can freely distribute to YouTubers, I would certainly think that it is morally better to give them to original content creators. But then again, only having the intuition that this would be a fair distribution doesn't seem to cut it. Why would reactors not deserve the views that they get by react to someone's original content? After all, if there weren't something interesting about the reactor, it wouldn't get any views. So what we need is an argument as to why reactors don't deserve the views, even if they have consent and if they are not unrightfully taking the views from others. One such argument can be found by looking into virtue ethics.
There's not something to brag about. It is something you should be ashamed of. You have a staggering amount of money, which you could use to pay people to make content for you, but instead you just take it for free from people you don't even ask.
The arguments mentioned before mostly focus on what rights original content creators have and how reaction content might impact the content creation sphere as a whole and the performance of the creators' videos specifically. But another way to look at the issue is to focus on the reactors themselves. In short, what does it say about you as a person if you make your career by reacting to other people's videos? Here, the argument has been made that it is basically not a good look for you. Reactors could be described as lazy, disrespectful, or even exploitative. It's lazy because they can pump out dozens of videos in no time, while it took the original content creators maybe thousands of hours to create these videos. If the reactor is already well established, they can even make much more money in a shorter amount of time than the creators. But maybe you are sympathetic to the reactors and think that this is a very smart use of their time to make an easy profit. Maybe they simply have the right high performer grind set and use their 5-head to make easy bucks. But that would sort of acknowledge the point, that it is lazy. Whether we call it cost efficient or lazy probably relies on whether you think it is morally reprehensible, neutral, or even good. Is it disrespectful? I think there is a good case to call it that. We can again refer to Dark Viper for this point. By definition, reactors do not know beforehand if they have anything to add to what they will be watching. Nonetheless, they go on to watch the video and try to react. Sometimes this will work, often it won't. Even assuming that transformative reaction content is morally neutral, the fact that a streamer doesn't check if they have something to contribute to a specific video can be taken to express that they don't mind if it turns out that they don't. This lack of care, I think, can be taken to express disrespect towards the original content creator. Lastly, exploitative. For those who only make reaction content, it is necessary that there is a constant flow of original content that they can use. And for the reaction content to be interesting, the videos themselves need to be in some form interesting as well. Otherwise, no one would bother to watch the reaction. So in a very real sense, the reactors' work deeply relies on original content creators providing for them. Whether or not this is exploitative again depends on the moral assumptions that you make in this argument. If you think that original creators deserve all the views that they could get, then reactors taking views from them indeed amounts to exploitation. If you assume that content creation should involve creativity, effort, or at least some form of entertaining weirdness, many reactors will again be exploitative as they gain from others' work and are not willing to put the work in themselves. I tend to share the assumption that much of reaction content is exploitative, exactly because I value good content and think that good content deserves all the praise that it can get. But again, I have no good argument to convince you of this if you don't care about it yourself, though I have a hard time believing that people don't care about such stuff at least a little bit. Is reaction content unethical? I've looked at 3 types of arguments that are used in the discussions online, or at least the better ones I could find. These use first the ontological notions such as rights and consent, then second, consequentialist notions such as the effects of reactions on the specific content creator and the creation sphere as a whole, and lastly, character-based arguments that look at the potential vices of reactors. The claims against reaction content all depend on basic assumptions about what we think content creators deserve for their work, and what kind of content creation ecosystem we value. I personally value creative, funny, entertaining, and silly content creation for the platform. I also love to see people who do such work get recognition for exactly that. But how much exactly they deserve is hard, if not impossible, to say. Reaction content always runs the risk of being lazy, uncreative, and exploitative. We don't really know whether it is good or bad for the specific creators that are being reacted to, but logically speaking, every reaction takes away impressions that could have gone to original content. If someone as a viewer doesn't care about a constant stream of original content, or if they don't think that anyone is entitled to recognition or views no matter how much effort they put into their work, I don't think that there is much to say to convince them. At the very least, they presuppose that there is some interesting original content, because if not, their favorite reactor would be out of their job. But my own experience is that people do care about good original content, and most people likely value if good things happen to those who provide good content, especially if it is free to them. But not every reaction is necessarily immoral. If a streamer knows that there's a new video that is up their alley, chances are good that they will have something to add. Maybe it would be even better if they were doing response content rather than reaction content, but I also see that there can be something valuable in seeing someone's first live and raw reaction to a piece of content. But for much of the current reaction content, we can say that there is not much thought put into whether they have something interesting to add. Reactors react because it is a good way to entertain their live audience or gain YouTube views. This is morally problematic if we at least agree on the basic moral claims about the value of good original content on the platform. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it was a good instance of response video and worthy of your time. If you liked it, please like and subscribe and share it with someone else who might be interested. Or make your own response video if you feel like it, and then I'll respond to that one, which invites you again to respond to my response, which I will of course respond to with a new response. resulting in a never-ending cycle of response videos until the ultimate heat death of the universe.